Hey everyone, I'm Funky Crab and I've prepared another type distribution video. This time around, we'll be taking a look at Generation 2's Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions. We'll be following the same game plan listed in the previous video, but as a refresher, we'll review that real quick. First, Pokemon and their typings will be counted as soon as they're available to catch. Second, level up and trait evolutions will be counted immediately, while stone evolutions will be counted once the stone is available. Third, any Pokemon obtained outside of normal gameplay, such as through glitches, will not be counted. Alongside those bullet points, there are a few other things of note. Since these games have a more substantial postgame, the calculations will be split into two sections, before the postgame and after the postgame. Both sections will be compared to see how type distribution changes between them. After that, we will compare the type deviation values of Gold, Silver, and Crystal to the type deviation values of Red, Blue, and Yellow to see if type distribution has improved or worsened. Don't worry, I will describe these values in greater detail later on. Finally, we will also be including the 3DS Virtual Console release of Pokemon Crystal, since there is an additional Pokemon that can be obtained in that version of the game. Also, I want to say thank you to those that suggested checking out the Professor Oak's challenge guides. This was a great point of reference showing the majority of which Pokemon can be found and where. It's also great because I don't need to rip out my hair while trying to keep track of every single Pokemon. Other people have done that instead. Maybe now I won't forget about Pokemon, like in the last video where I forgot about a sneaky little Voltorb from Route 10, which then blows up and ruins the entire video. Just maybe. Now with that out of the way, it's time to journey through Johto and count those types. As is tradition, players can choose one of three starter Pokemon. This time around, you can choose the Chikorita line, the Cyndaquil line, and the Totodile line. You'll see some familiar faces out on Route 29, like the Pidgey and Rattata line, alongside new ones like the Hoothoot and Sentret lines, as well as the Hoppip line if you're playing Crystal. Up north on Route 46, the Spearow and Geodude lines are found here, with the Jigglypuff line being found here in Gold and Silver, and the Phanpy line for Crystal. I say Jigglypuff line because through some money-saving strategies and maybe a little bit of luck, you can get a Moonstone from your mom before the first gym. It is strict, but it's possible. Route 30 lies on the other side of Cherrygrove City, and with it come new encounters. The Caterpie line and Spinarak lines can be found in Gold, the Weedle and Ledybell lines are in Silver, and all four of them are found in Crystal. In addition, part of the Poliwag line and the Zubat line can be found here in Crystal. But don't cry, Gold and Silver players! Dark Cave up ahead has enough Zubats to feed you your entire lives. Game Freak, bring over some more Leech Life! Boys hungry! It's so dumb. Aside from Zubat, the best named cave in all of Johto also has Dunsparce, and Crystal gets the Teddiursa line. Route 31 is the location of the Bellsprout line and the Ghastly line for Crystal. That being said, the Ghastly line is found in Sprout Tower for Gold and Silver, which is located in Violet City. Also, you can catch a Bellsprout and trade it with an NPC in the city to obtain Onyx. Route 32 is blocked off until Falconer is defeated, but you can go west of the route to enter the Ruins of Alph. After solving a puzzle, you can find Unknown. Now, there are 26 different forms of Unknown, but Unknown is not going to count for 26 Psychic types since they're all the same Pokemon. But if I were to make a checklist for all of them, it would look something like this. Even though you can explore a decent chunk of Route 36, there's no grass where any Pokemon can be found. Unless you play Crystal, in which case there is grass, and Growlithe can be found here. That's it for the early game section. Gold version has 41 Pokemon with 63 total types, Silver has 41 Pokemon with 65 total types, and Crystal has 54 Pokemon with 84 total types. After defeating Falconer, a Pokemon egg will be given to you by one of Professor Elm's aides. After some time, this egg will hatch into the Togepi line. Route 32 is now open, and it's time for some new Pokemon. The Wooper line is available, the Hoppip line makes their Gold and Silver debut, and so does the Mareep line. Quick side note, the Mareep line cannot be found in Crystal version. Now, I'm not a betting kind of guy, but I'm willing to bet that this single decision to exclude Mareep is enough to deter some people from playing Crystal. Believe me, I certainly missed it when I played. By the way, Silver and Crystal can also find the Ekans line here. There's a Pokemon Center at the end of this route where the Old Rod can be obtained. I hope you're ready for a big fishing adventure because there's some new Pokemon to be found. Fishing anywhere will net the Magikarp line, fishing in New Barktown will land the Tentacool line, the Krabby line will get caught on your hook in Cherry Grove City, and the Goldeen line can be reeled in from Dark Cave. Gold and Silver players can fish for part of the Poliwag line on Route 30. To wrap up this fishing backtrack, Quillfish can be found on Route 32, but you need to wait for a swarm phone call from Fisherman Ralph, or you can just adjust your time to get it to happen. The choice is yours. Past Route 32 is Union Cave, where the Sandshrew line is available for Gold and Crystal. This cave may seem pretty small now, but we'll definitely return here later on. For now, Union Cave empties out onto Route 33, which has no new Pokemon, but connects to Azalea Town. Gee, I wonder what Pokemon could be found in a place called the Slowpoke Well. Man, I just don't know what could be in here. It could be anything. Or it could just be the Slowpoke line. Yeah, it's just that. Okay, you can get Zubat here too if you didn't get enough of them from Dark Cave. On the topic of Slowpoke, it can learn Headbutt upon level up, so you can headbutt trees before defeating Bugsy. With this, Execute is found on Route 32, Apom and Heracross are found in Azalea Town, and the Pineco line can be found in the next area, Ilex Forest. Within Ilex Forest, the Paris line and part of the Oddish line can be found here. Exclusive to Crystal, the Psyduck and Venonat lines can be found here in the forest. Wrapping up this section, both Gold and Silver versions have 34 Pokemon with 53 total types, and Crystal has 32 Pokemon with 50 total types. After defeating Bugsy and making it through the forest, you'll end up on Route 34. On this route, you can find the Abra line, Drowsy line, and Ditto, with the Snubbull line appearing here in Crystal. The Daycare is also on this route, meaning Gold and Silver players can obtain Igglybuff. In Crystal version, you can obtain the Odd Egg from here. It will randomly hatch into a small pool of Pokemon, so here are the lines that can be obtained from this egg. The Jigglypuff line, part of the Pikachu line, the Clefairy line, Tyrogue line, Jinx line, Electabuzz line, and Magmar line. On top of all that, Crystal players can obtain Leaf Stones from Picnic or Gina, meaning that Exeggutor, Vileplume, and Victreebel are now available. Goldenrod City has some new Pokemon to find, and they aren't all lopsided for Crystal like they were on Route 34. There's a trainer in the department store looking for a Drowsy to trade. By trading, you can get the Machop line. Over in the game corner, the Ekans line is available for Gold, the Sandshrew line is available for Silver, and both versions can get the Dratini line. As for Crystal, the Cubone line and Wobbuffet can be obtained here. Route 35 is up to the north, where Yanma can be found, and both Nidoran lines are available for Gold and Silver. Go further north and you'll end up in the National Park, where many different Pokemon can be found. Normally, the only Pokemon found here are Sunkern and the 2 Nidoran lines for Crystal version. However, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, you can enter the bug catching contest. Scyther and Pinsir can be found, along with the Weedle line for Gold, Caterpie line for Silver, and Venonat for both. By winning the contest, you can obtain a Sunstone, meaning you can get Sunflora and Bellossom. Exiting the National Park leads to Route 36, where Gold gets Growlithe, Silver gets Vulpix, and both versions get Stantler. There aren't any new Pokemon to catch in Crystal, but you can get Firestones from Schoolboy Allen, which Crystal players can use to get Arcanine. Adding up the Pokemon for this section, Gold version has 34 Pokemon with 44 total types, Silver has 34 Pokemon with 42 total types, and Crystal has 48 Pokemon with 57 total types. After surviving Whitney, you can get the Squirt Bottle to water the weird tree on Route 36. Doing so will make Sudowoodo appear and will open up Route 37, though don't get too excited. The only new Pokemon on this route is Stantler for Crystal version. We've finally made it to Ecruteak City, But if you don't mind immediately turning around and walking back to Goldenrod City after talking to Bill, you can get part of the Eevee line. Back in Ecruteak City, you can enter the burned tower and encounter the Magmar line in Gold and Silver. Hey, this is Funky Crab in Post. I almost forgot that the coughing line is also found in the burned tower. I don't know how I keep forgetting about the Pokemon that also just so happen to be the ones that explode, but hopefully that's the last time I almost forget about a Pokemon and have to put it in post. So, that's it. By climbing down in Gold and Silver, or falling through the floor in Crystal, the legendary beasts will awaken and begin to roam the region. Raikou and Entei are available to catch, while Gold and Silver are additionally able to find Suicune. Ecruteak City is done, and we could challenge the gym here, but it's possible to push further west to Olivine City, as well as east towards Mahogany Town. Going west will put us on Route 38, where the Magnemite line, Miltank, and Tauros can be found. The Snubbull line and Farfetch'd make their Gold and Silver appearance, while the Meowth line is available in Silver and Crystal. In Crystal, you can get Thunderstones from Last Dana, making Raichu and Jolteon available. The Magnemite found here also have a small chance of holding Metal Coat, making Steelix and Scizor accessible, though I would recommend waiting until you have a Pokemon with Beef, because otherwise, you're catching Magnemites until you get one. There's nothing on Route 37, but there are some new Pokemon down in Olivine City. The Voltorb line is obtained through a trade for Krabby, and the Goodrod can be found here. Don't worry, the new Pokemon that can be encountered with the Goodrod are all found in Olivine City, so no running around the region this time. Using the Goodrod in the waters of Olivine can get you the Corsola... the Corsola? Using the Goodrod in the waters of Olivine can get you Corsola and Staryu, and fishing out on the harbor can net you Shelder and Chinchou. Is it Chinchou or Chinchou? I don't know. Finally, out on Route 40, smashing some rocks can reveal a Shuckle to you. You can't go any further here, so it's time to head back to Ecruteak City. Heading east of Ecruteak City leads us to Route 42 in the base of Mount Mortar. Personally, I've always waited on getting Surf to travel through here, but if you feel daring, you could go through the mountain instead. Now there's something interesting about Mount Mortar itself that I wanted to talk about. In Gold and Silver, the interior is dark and requires flash, but in Crystal, as well as Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Mount Mortar is always lit up. It's been a long time since I've played Gold and Silver, and I was curious how many people were aware of this change. While going through, you can find the Marrow line and the Mankey line for gold before exiting. Once you're out on the other side, Fisherman Thule can give you Water Stones in Crystal, meaning that Poliwrath, Cloyster, Starmie, and Vaporeon are all available. When you enter Mahogany Town, head north to Route 43, where Girafarig can be found in Gold and Silver, with Farfetch'd appearing here in Crystal. After that huge push to find every possible Pokemon, it's time to return to Ecruteak and challenge Morty. It's time to add up what we found. Gold and Silver have 33 Pokemon with 43 total types each, and Crystal has 35 Pokemon with 47 total types. If you pushed on ahead in the last section like I did, then there are no new Pokemon to find after beating Morty. Is what I would say if the Fog Badge did not let us surf in the overworld, but it does, so there are some new Pokemon that become available if we backtrack to other areas. And if you don't feel like backtracking again, then I guess you can wait until after defeating Price, also known as the 7th Gym Leader. Yeah, we really cleaned out Johto for a while in that last section. Also, I feel like now's the best time to bring this up, but due to Johto's, I guess, non-linearity, you could do the Team Rocket hideout stuff in Mahogany Town, fight Price now, and find a few new Pokemon with Whirlpool, but I'm gonna stick with the order of the gym leaders and what number they are. I will make mention of what Pokemon can be found if you fight Price out of order in the next section, but I just wanted to bring that up in case you were curious. Getting back on track, we can head to the one and only Dark Cave, and use Surf to reach an entrance that goes further into the cave. You can't go very far past there, but Gold and Silver players can find Wobbuffet. Back in Union Cave, you can surf on the lower floor to enter the Ruins of Alph in an area that was previously inaccessible. There's some grass where the Natu line and Smeargle can be found. If you head deeper into Union Cave, you can get a King's Rock from an NPC, giving us Politoed and Slowking. Also, if you're in the cave on a Friday, you can find Lapras. For gold and silver, the Psyduck line can be found in the Ilex Forest by surfing on the water. Finally, by surfing from Olivine to Cyanwood City, Mantine can be found in gold version on Route 41. That's all of the Pokemon that can be found before fighting the next 3 gym leaders, so the next section will jump to the defeat of Price. As for this section, gold version has 10 Pokemon with 15 types, silver has 9 Pokemon with 13 total types, and crystal has 7 Pokemon with 12 total types. With Price defeated, you can use your new Whirlpool abilities to descend into the Whirl Islands, where you can find the Seal line while walking and the Horsey line while surfing. There's a chance a Horsey could hold a Dragon Scale, which can get us Kingdra. These Pokemon can be obtained earlier if you battle Price before Chuck and Jasmine. Though, if you're playing Silver, I would recommend waiting until after you kick Team Rocket out of the radio tower to come here, but you can ignore my recommendation if you really want to. After defeating Team Rocket, the director of the radio tower will give you the Rainbow Wing in gold version, the Silver Wing in silver version, or the Clear Bell in crystal version. Gold and crystal versions can head to the Tin Tower to find Ho-Oh or Suicune respectively, while silver players can find Lugia in the Whirl Islands. For all the Seal and Horsey fans out there playing silver, don't say I didn't warn you. As a side note, in gold, silver, and crystal, you can make it all the way to Blackthorn City without defeating Team Rocket at the radio tower. However, the Blackthorn City gym will be closed until they are defeated, so you might as well do it now. After that, we can continue east from Mahogany Town to Route 44. Lickitung and Tangela are found here, with the Remoraid line being found in gold and silver. Continuing on will lead to the Ice Path, another great name by the way, where the Swinub line can be found, along with the Jinx line for gold and silver, Delibirds for silver and crystal, and Sneasel for crystal. Blackthorn City may be the location of the final gym in Johto, but there are still some Pokemon to be found before battling Claire. A female Dragonair can be traded for access to the Rhyhorn line in gold and silver, while a female Dragonair can be traded to obtain the Doduo line in crystal. The Dratini line has yet to appear in crystal, but that will change very soon. South of Blackthorn City is Route 45, where Gligar and the Teddiursa line can be found in gold version, while Skarmory and the Phanpy line can be found in silver version. Not only does Gligar and Skarmory also appear in crystal, but so does the aforementioned Dratini line. Now that the Evil Team storyline is over, it's time to see what we got in this section. Gold version has 19 Pokemon with 29 total types, Silver has 20 Pokemon with 31 total types, and Crystal has 19 Pokemon with 30 total types. With all 8 Johto badges, your immediate thought is probably to surf east from New Barktown to reach Kanto. You'd be correct, but for Gold and Silver players, they can use Waterfall and Mount Mortar to find the Karate King, where you can receive a Tyrogue from him. On the other side of the Tojo Falls is Route 27, where the Ponyta line can be found along with the Doduo line for Gold and Silver. These are the last Pokemon you can obtain in Gold and Silver before becoming champion. As for Crystal, the last Pokemon that can be found in that version before battling the champion is the Rhyhorn line in Victory Road. A bit of a shorter roster of Pokemon, but regardless, Gold and Silver versions have 8 Pokemon with 10 total types, and Crystal has 4 Pokemon with 6 total types. Before we continue to the postgame, we'll take a short break from counting and I'll add up all the types that we've encountered so far. We'll do the calculations later, but here are the amounts of each type for each game up to this point. With the defeat of Lance, we can board the SS Aqua to travel to Kanto. However, if you're playing the Virtual Console release of Crystal version, you can receive a GS Ball, unlocking Celebi in the Ilex Forest. When the ship docks in Vermilion City, head north past Cerulean City to Route 25 and enter the Sea Cottage. Bill's grandfather will give you evolutionary stones if you show him specific Pokemon. At long last, Gold and Silver players can finally get their hands on the other evolution stones for the first time in their games. In the postgame. And only one of each. Thanks, Game Freak. Anyways, the Water Stone will allow you to obtain Vaporeon, Starmie, Cloyster, and Poliwrath. The Thunderstone can get you Jolteon, the Firestone can get you Arcanine for gold and Ninetales for silver, and the Leaf Stone can get you Exeggutor, Vileplume, and Victreebel. Hi, it's me again in post. Somehow I forgot about Flareon, even though I literally got done talking about Vaporeon and Jolteon. I forgot about Flareon somehow. I mean, at least it doesn't explode. But I guess it's a fire type, so I guess it has the potential to explode. Out on Route 10, the Electabuzz line can be obtained in Gold and Silver. Inside Rock Tunnel, Kangaskhan can be found along with the Cubone line for Gold and Silver. Upon exiting the cave, head to Saffron City and visit Sylph Co. You may not be able to explore the building like in the past, but talking to the guard will get you an upgrade. There's no use for this just yet, but it will be useful shortly. After that, head west to Route 7 to find the Houndour line and Murkrow. Continuing on to Celadon City, you can stop by the game corner to pick up the Porygon line. Of course, Porygon 2 can be obtained by giving the upgrade to Porygon and trading. For Crystal version, the Larvitar line can be obtained from the Celadon game corner. Also, if all of the legendary beasts have been captured, Uzine will give you the Rainbow Wing, meaning Ho-Oh can be found in the Tin Tower in Crystal. Before leaving, you can surf in the pond to cause Grimer to appear. Out on Cycling Road, the Slugma line can be found in the grass. Okay, get your laughs out now. Are you good? Alright, moving on. Unfortunately, aside from the gym, there's not much to do in Fuchsia City, but we can continue east to Route 15, where there's a chance to find the Chansey line. On Route 14, there's also a trainer offering to trade her Aerodactyl for a Chansey. Once the power plant has been repaired and you have the Kanto radio card, return to Vermilion City and wake up the Snorlax blocking the cave. Now, what cave was Snorlax blocking? That's right, Diglett Cave! And inside of Diglett's cave you can find, say it with me everyone, the Diglett line! Upon exiting onto Route 2, Gold and Silver players can finally obtain the Pikachu line. Head north to Pewter City and speak to an old man in the open. In Gold and Crystal versions, he'll give you the Silver Wing, and in Silver version, he'll give you the Rainbow Wing. This enables the former versions to find Lugia, and the latter version to find Ho-Oh. Head over to Mount Moon in the east, where the Clefairy line can be found in Gold and Silver. After that, head all the way south to Pallet Town and surf down to find grass on Route 21. This is where Mr. Mime can be found. Closing out our region-wide expedition, Gold and Silver version have 38 Pokemon with 50 total types each, and Crystal has 22 Pokemon with 32 total types, and the Virtual Console version of Crystal has 23 Pokemon with 34 total types. After earning all 8 Kanto badges, the final part of the game will be unlocked. There's one new Pokemon on Route 28 for Gold and Silver, that being Sneasel. Well, a Sneasel that looks different from what we're used to. It's not shiny, but for some reason instead of being black and red, it's brown and light blue or kinda green. Kinda like a chocolate mint cookie. I don't know, when I was little, I remember that it was ice type because it looked minty, and mint makes your mouth cold. I do kind of miss this version of Sneasel, but the colors they went with instead are really cool, just not minty cool. Inside Mount Silver, the Larvitar line can be found in Gold and Silver, as well as Miss Drevis, the final Pokemon that can be found in Gold, Silver, and Crystal. Finishing up the encounters, Gold and Silver have 5 Pokemon with 9 types, and Crystal has 1 Pokemon with 1 type. Just like the first break, we'll take another one to show the final amounts of each type for each game. And now, with all of our data put into the equations, it's time to see which version has the best type distribution. For our calculations, we're essentially comparing the ratio of type amounts of each game percentage-wise to an ideal scenario where all the types have equal value. Of course, the ideal ratio may not be possible, as trying to divide the total amount of types equally could result in decimals, and you can't have, say, 3/10 of a Pokemon. But the idea is to get as close as possible. The difference between the type ratios of a game compared to the ideal ratio is what we'll call a deviation. These deviations are all added up, giving each game a deviation value. A lower deviation value is closer to the ideal type ratio, while a higher deviation value is further away. We are looking for which game has the lower value. Here's an example. Let's say the ideal distribution value for each type is 15, and we have two actual values, one being 10 and the other being 30. The difference between 10 and 15 is 5, while the difference between 15 and 30 is 15. Since 10 has the smaller difference of the two numbers, it has less deviation than 30 does, meaning that the game with 10 type instances is closer to the ideal. However, if the ideal value was instead, say, 25, then 30 would have a smaller difference and be closer to the ideal than 10 it was. As you can see, having higher amounts of a certain type does not correlate with a better type distribution. Instead, we're here to see how close the games can be to having a balanced type distribution. First, we'll cover the results of the main game, then cover the full game results after. That being said, coming in with a rounded deviation value of 0.5973, the winner is Crystal version! I bet you're real shocked about that one. Gold comes in second with 0.6075, and Silver comes in third with 0.6152. So let's take a deeper look as to why Gold and Silver got their values. Unlike Red and Blue, Gold and Silver share the same number of total types, that being 257. This means that the amount of types needed for each ideal ratio are also the same, so their placements are based on the amount of types attached to version-exclusive Pokémon. Gold has an extra fire type, an extra water type, 2 extra poison types, and 2 extra fighting types, while Silver has 1 extra ground type, 1 extra ice type, 1 extra psychic type, 1 extra steel type, and 2 extra flying types. Gold's fire and 2 fighting types are beneficial, getting the type's value closer to the ideal value, while only Silver's ice and steel typings are beneficial. Therefore, only 2 of Silver's 6 additional types are beneficial, compared to Gold's 3 beneficial types, meaning that Silver's type distribution is a little bit worse than Gold's. To wrap up the main game results, I made some charts comparing the ideal distribution chart to the distribution of each version, which are on your screen now. The rare types are crammed together in the chart, but the values are color-coded, so the color of the pie slice will correspond to the color of the type's name. As for the full game, which takes the post-game into account, there is a clear winner between the 3 versions. Coming in with a rounded value of 0.5272, the winner is Gold version? And Silver version? It's a tie? How in the world did this happen? I went into this expecting Crystal to be the clear winner across the board, but Crystal going from first to third is just unbelievable. Crystal's value wound up being 0.5510, putting the enhanced version in third place behind Gold and Silver. Let's take a look at the numbers. The total type instances for Gold, Silver, and Crystal are quite similar, with Gold and Silver both having 316 and Crystal having 320. Looking back at the ideal distribution chart, for equal typings, each type amount should be as close to 5.88% as possible. 5.88% of Gold and Silver's total type instances is 18.59, and for Crystal, it's 18.76, both rounded of course. However, unlike the Generation 1 games, the difference of the Generation 2 games' type deviation values is quite significant, so we'll take a look at the amount of each type. Comparing Crystal to Gold, there are 4 types that Crystal does better than Gold in, those being Water, Psychic, Ice, and Steel. For neutral types, there are 7, which are Grass, Fire, Rock, Poison, Ghost, Dragon, and Dark. This leaves 6 types that have detrimental values when compared to Gold version. For reference, when we compare Gold to Silver's type amounts, 10 are neutral, 3 are beneficial, and 4 are detrimental. Already we can see that Gold and Silver have less types that are different from one another. Adding up the amount of type instances that make the deviation worse when comparing the 2 versions, Gold and Silver each have 3 extra instances that make it worse, and both have 2 that are beneficial. How does Crystal's type instances fare when compared to Gold? Well, for Crystal version, 9 type instances are harmful, with only 2 type instances being helpful, while Gold has 5 helpful type instances, while only 3 are harmful for Gold. With so many type instances increasing type deviation, it makes sense as to why Crystal's type distribution became worse than Gold and Silver in the post-game. What you're seeing on screen is a bar graph I created to show how the type deviation of each game changed throughout the adventure. I was originally going to go with a line graph, but I thought it would have been a bit difficult to discern and not as interesting to look at. Anyways, we can see that aside from the post-Zephyr badge and post-Fog badge encounters, type deviation was trending downwards, meaning that it was slowly improving. Crystal version initially had worse deviation than the base versions, but gained the lead post-Hive and post-Plane badges. This is in large part due to the Odd Egg Pokemon, which gave Crystal version rarer typings like Electric, Fighting, Fire, and Ice. Starting with the post-Glacier encounters, Gold and Silver began to close the gap, and Gold was very close to Crystal when the main game ended. The reason why Gold and Silver closed the gap is not only because those two games finally got more rare types, but also because Crystal had more harmful type amounts in 5 of them, those being Grass, Normal, Water, Ground, and Bug. Heading into the post-game, Gold and Silver pulled ahead and increased their lead following the Mount Silver encounters. Also, the Celebi encounter in the Virtual Console version of Crystal increased type deviation, so its deviation is a little bit higher than regular Crystal. It seems like Crystal version front-loaded many Pokemon that were previously unavailable until the post-game in the base games, and the extra Pokemon available in Crystal mostly had types that were already common, which increased deviation. Just like the main game section, I also created some charts to show how the type distribution changed from the main game to the full game. The chart on the left side is the type distribution of the main game, and the chart on the right side is the type distribution of the full game. Now that we have our values and understand them a bit more, how do they compare to red, blue, and yellow versions? Unfortunately for the Gen 2 games, their deviations are worse than the Gen 1 games. This is the ranking of type deviations for the Kanto games and Johto games. Or I guess it would be Johto and Kanto games? The Kanto games and Johto and Kanto games, there. Anyways, we can see there's a significant difference between the lowest placed Gen 1 game, that being blue version, and the highest placed Gen 2 game, which is Crystal. The most likely culprit for this difference is the introduction of the Steel and Dark types, and few Pokemon having that type. On the topic of types, few Pokemon of the rarer types were also added, like Fighting, Dragon, and Ghost, though that last one is unavailable until the post-game. Meanwhile, there are plenty of normal, bug, and flying Pokemon to go around in the Gen 2 games. Moving on to the full game rankings, Gen 2 closes the huge gap but still lags behind. Overall, the post-game encounters helped in decreasing type deviation. Like before, if a few more Pokemon of the rare types were added, Gen 2 may have been able to surpass Gen 1 in the post-game type deviation. So, what should the takeaway be for this video? Well, even though the Gen 2 games had worse type deviation than their Gen 1 siblings, it's not indicative of their overall quality and are still very fun games to play through. Pokemon Silver was actually the first Pokemon game I had ever played, though I'd never played Crystal until this video. I guess this is a pretty good reason to finally go and play through it. Back to the topic at hand though. There are plenty of reasons for playing any of the 3 versions, like Crystal having a lot of Pokemon that can be found earlier than they could be in the base games, along with much earlier evolution stones, and Gold and Silver having the Mareep line. Okay, seriously, why wasn't this line in Crystal? This decision still keeps me up at night. But regardless, when it comes to type distribution of Gen 2, Crystal does it best in the main game, and Gold and Silver do it best in the full game. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing if you haven't already so you can be notified when the next video drops. You know, in a weird and unexpected way, this video taught me an important lesson regarding Crystal falling behind Gold and Silver. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Though in this case, I guess the Pokemon chicken equivalent would be Torchic? So it'd be more like, don't count your Torchics before they hatch. Yeah, we'll go with that. See you guys in the next video.